Now, in this section, I want to discuss the very exciting topic of cross-sectional studies. Now, these are really a snapshot in time. I've mentioned one of the examples before, and those are surveys. We've all received a request to fill in a survey in our email inbox, and the authors of that might just wanted us to be part of a cross-sectional study. Another example, very good example of cross-sectional studies is epidemiological surveys. We just want to know how many patients at a certain time has a certain disease. More exciting things about the cross-sectional study, though, is it can be incorporated into other study designs, and you'll see that quite often. Now, let's consider an example. Lawrenson and colleagues in 2013, they really sent out a questionnaire to healthcare professionals, those who are optometrists and ophthalmologists. And I want to quote from the abstract that says, "Conduct a cross-sectional survey of current practice." So, what did they do? They just wanted to know what advice patients were given, and those were patients with age-related macular degeneration. So that's indeed a snapshot of time. They sent out the survey and they asked, what advice are you giving right now? Now, one thing you can do with these results is form many subgroups. Say, for instance, not done in the study, but you could say, let's divide the participants or people who filled in the survey into the different areas of town, this side of the river and that side of the river. Once we've got these two groups, we can now compare what were their answers to the other questions. And so for almost all of those questions, you can form two little groups depending on what they answer and evaluate the other variables. So certainly so many answers you can come up with in this sort of study. I mentioned it's also very common to do epidemiological studies in the form of a cross-sectional study. We're really looking here at prevalence. Another example I wanted to tell you about is Sartorius and colleagues, and they just looked right here in South Africa at the determinants of obesity in South Africa. And they did those from data from very large surveys. But again, it's a snapshot in time. Now, unfortunately, there are problems with this kind of analysis. First of all, there's a response bias. Think of sending out a survey. There's a certain subset of people who will respond to a survey and those who won't. And it might skew the data. There might be something inherent about the subset who do decide to respond versus those that don't. So you've got to be very careful about that. Also, cause and effect can't really be identified or separated from each other. We might get from the different sides of town different results, but was living on different sides of town really the cause for those differences in answers? So why do cross-sectional studies? Well, number one, it's very quick. If you think how quickly you can fill in a survey, if you're the researcher, you ask some people to fill in a survey for you, your data is collected right there. It can be very quick. It can also be very cheap. Imagine just sending it out via email. There's really very little cost to that. So you can get some powerful answers very quickly and very cheaply from cross-sectional studies. Now, in the next lecture, I'm going to talk about cohort series. That'll be the last type of observational studies we're going to talk about. Really interesting stuff.